Honestly, even though I knew this was coming, I didn't quite expect Kong to do a suplex on Godzilla into the pyramids of Egypt. Just not on my bingo card. Godzilla x Kong and Kong. Godzilla, Kong, The New Empire. Mad there's been 5 of these movies now. Honestly, fair play to the MonsterVerse franchise. I know things feel a million miles away from Gareth Edwards' original Godzilla back in 2014. I mean, you could honestly treat that as a different universe. At this point, I'd normally read an IMDb blurb or something like that to tell you what the story is, but it's just Godzilla and Kong teaming up to fight a different monster. That is literally it. I feel like how it strayed from the original Godzilla films is probably what will get mentioned a lot when it comes to talking about these newer movies. But despite that, my opening statement for this is that, this film knows what it is, and I had a pretty damn good time with it still. Godzilla 2024 is incredible, and it's still one of my favourites for sure, but I can see why they shifted into this more light-hearted, almost anime-like tone. At the time of Godzilla King of the Monsters and Kong Skull Island, Kong financially did better, and I think what the studio took away from that is that the more light-hearted nature of the story was the way to move forward, and not the fun, lovable characters that were in Skull Island or anything like that. But the studio shifted tone and focus, and I think this franchise is now surviving because it's understanding its target audience, keeping its net wide, and focusing on its key deliverables. I mean, frustratingly, the human elements of this movie are probably the worst it's ever been, but on the flip side, it's also up there with some of the best monster action I've ever watched. I get that it shouldn't be a defense of a film to say this, but this truly is the epitome of just a switch your brain off action. And movies should strive to be so much more than that, but at least if it's hitting that lowest criteria and it's doing it well, it certainly helps. I feel like the CG artists behind these monster films have also just nailed the aesthetics to a T now. Almost all of the monsters look top notch, in motion, with clear camera angles framing these fights so much better than we've seen before. Everything looked consistently great. Everything that wasn't humans in green screens, that was. And this movie knew to prioritise that and to maximise our time with these fan favourite giants. There's this whole sequence, probably 10-15 minutes long at least, not a single human in it. They made Kong the main character, and it's done so well to the point where there's just no voices, no humans stating the obvious. They're using Kong's actions and his interactions with other creatures to tell the story. It's perfectly coherent, and it feels they're getting to the point where they can just take the humans out entirely. Speaking of which, Kong is definitely the more focal point over Godzilla, it feels, and whilst I'm on the subject of Godzilla 2, they've definitely altered Godzilla's looks. I mean, outside of the obvious pink glow tan it now has, I feel like they've made his legs longer, and it does kind of feel unnatural. He's like proper jumping and doing aesthetics now. Very different to his immobile behaviour in every other film. The villains of the day are also interesting. The main monkey villain, Scargiver, I think his name was. The design is cool, but I feel like the size was off. He should have been much bigger in size as, he just wasn't all that intimidating. He's kind of just a little bitch instead. There's another element to the film, keeping it spoiler free, and that was much cooler and fun to see in action, but again, should have just been much more of a threat. And yeah, despite all the looks of the key things in question, they were all just awesome to watch in action. I don't really have anything else to add than that. I mean, God, yeah, the human aspects were just terrible. Brian Tyree Henry's character is just written to be so annoying, and everyone else is completely forgettable. They're all just there to say the plot out loud and provide narration for what we're already watching these giant titans doing anyway. Luckily, they're just not a huge chunk of this. Dan Stevens was the best if I had to choose, although I kept expecting him to have a Russian accent like he does in Eurovision. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's as get what you see as you can expect. I mean, the ending's a bit rushed, but for all other intents and purposes, it just ticks the boxes I think people were wanting to be ticked the most. If it's monster action you want, and you can bear the rest, this is one I'd happily recommend to you, and I'll keep being happy to see more of these. I mean, yeah, improving the human elements would definitely go a long way for sure. It also does make me laugh how these two massive monsters quote-unquote saved the day, but no one is acknowledging the cities they've leveled during the fight to win right at the end. So, Godzilla x Kong, have you already seen it? If so, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked this video, feel free to like and subscribe and all that, and as always, stay tuned for more reviews of movies, anime and video games. Until next time guys, take care, bye bye.